Hello, and welcome to Embrace Her Evolution. This podcast celebrates the limitless power within every woman. I'll be your host, Amanda Aguilar. I'm an Emmy Award-winning TV news reporter, an empowerment speaker, a mental health advocate, and your biggest cheerleader. Together, we'll embrace the twists and turns of life, from personal growth to relationships, career aspirations, and everything in between. If you're trying to level up, if you're ready to rediscover that confidence you lost, if you want to learn how to create a life you love and deserve, then stick around. Embrace Her Evolution will give you the insight and tools to bridge the gap between knowing better and doing better. I am so excited to join you on this incredible journey. So buckle up, babe. It is time to embrace your evolution. Hello. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but welcome to the first episode of Embrace Her Evolution. I don't know if you could tell or not, but I'm a little excited or whatever. And I'm just honestly so excited you all are joining me on this very new adventure of mine. And yes, it is a new adventure. I am a news reporter. I literally talk for a living, but this whole podcast thing is really out of my comfort zone, which is why I was so scared to start one. But hey, we're here, baby. So as a news reporter, I share a lot of stories, right? And I have honestly seen the impact it can make on a community or even just one person, okay? And recently, I've been honored to share my own story, whether that be on podcasts or empowerment conferences. And my story is powerful. I've seen the impact it can make on others, and I never would have thought that. And it honestly means the world to me to see other people, other women step into their own power, decide to start their own evolution to become the best version of themselves by listening to me. It's still surreal to know my story can have that kind of impact. And this is why I started Embrace Her Evolution. And to be honest, I started my own evolution like 3 years ago, this exact day 3 years ago, November 20th, 2020, which is actually why I wanted to launch Embrace Her Evolution today, because November 20th is a very significant day in my life. Since then, oh my God, it has been a wild ride. It has been uncomfortable, it has been scary, it has been emotional, but it's also been really beautiful. I've had new opportunities, I have better mental health, amen, and I'm honestly living my life in the most authentic way possible. So for my first episode of Embrace Her Evolution, I feel it is fitting to share why I started my own evolution and how I'm learning to embrace it, and of course, how you can too. And I started my evolution by simply doing one thing. I chose myself. I entered my me era. First, I want to get into what choosing yourself means, because I feel like it's all over social media, and really choosing yourself can look very different depending on the type of situation, right? But ultimately, choosing yourself means recognizing and advocating your needs and your wants. Choosing yourself is knowing and staying true to your values. Choosing yourself is saying yes to yourself, but it's also about learning to say no to others and situations that don't benefit you, and then not feeling guilty for it. Choosing yourself is having the courage to live the life you freaking want. And as a woman of color, I think we really struggle with this. I know as a Filipino American, from the get-go, at a young age, you learn that family is everything, and you always want to make your parents and your elders happy. And it was early on in my evolution when I finally realized that unless I take care of myself, I cannot take care of others. I can't. I just can't. A good example of this actually is when you're on an airplane, right? And the flight attendant saying their little spiel, and they say, put your oxygen mask on first, then help the person next to you. Because, hello, if you are out of oxygen, how are you going to be capable of even helping the other passengers? You're not. So, when people say choosing yourself is selfish, no, it's not. Choosing yourself is beneficial to you, and then it's also beneficial to others. Now that we kind of dug into what choosing yourself means, I want to paint a picture for you of how my life was before I started choosing myself. We can call this my let me focus on everyone else but myself era. And I really hope this helps you figure out whether you're choosing yourself or not. So, when I wasn't choosing myself, I didn't have boundaries. I don't even think I knew what boundaries were, to be honest. And I do want to get into this a little more because there's a difference between boundaries and rules. I think a lot of people have a hard time understanding that. So, rules are restrictions you put on another person, okay? Restrictions you put on another person. That is a rule. Boundaries are restrictions you place for yourself to maintain your wellness. Boundaries are restrictions you place for yourself to maintain your wellness. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go back to Amanda not having boundaries. Yeah, Amanda did not have boundaries in her work life. I did not know how to say no to filling in if I was asked by a manager. I was also working off the freaking clock, and sometimes I wasn't getting paid for it. I also didn't have boundaries in my freaking personal life. I put others' needs before my own all the time. And my favorite one, I had no boundaries in my love life. I allowed boys to walk all over me, and I never stood up for myself. So, that is one example if you are not choosing yourself. I also would always talk to myself in the worst ways. The worst ways. What I would say to myself, I would never say to a friend. My negative self talk, it was so bad. I would be saying, like, you're not as beautiful as her. You'll never be as good of a news reporter as her. So you better lower your bar on your goals. Or I would say, you are such a quitter. There's no point in signing up for a gym membership. And you know what? As a news reporter, I know words can be very powerful. Words are extremely powerful. And because I had this negative self talk, I had no self love for myself. I had no self confidence, no self worth. Another sign that you're not choosing yourself is when you struggle validating your own feelings and experiences. For me, I was aware of my feelings, right? But I never accepted them. I knew I was sad, but I could never say out loud, I am sad. And that just caused me to doubt myself a lot. And it also prevented me from learning more about myself. And I want to be honest here, I wasn't aware of all of this, my no boundaries, my negative self talk, not validating my feelings. I didn't know all of this until I took a deeper look into my life. And the one thing that made me start looking deeper into my life, what led me to choose myself, was a freaking bad breakup. It was, I don't even know if I can call it a breakup because it was a one-sided situationship with someone who was emotionally unavailable. You know how those situations go. You feel like you can make the person see how worthy you are, and maybe he'll give you his time and effort, and we know how that ends. It never ends in your favor. And it was months of just ghosting, and it was toxic, right? I ended things with him, thankfully. I finally, I guess, stood up for myself. I ended things with him, and then less than a month later, he posted another girl. And I remember crying myself to sleep, just asking why. Why am I not good enough? What does she have? And this wasn't the first time I've ever asked myself those questions. I would ask myself those questions every time it didn't work out with a guy. I was always questioning my worth. But at that point, I don't know, I just felt fed up with feeling unworthy. And so the next morning, dude, I truly believe in divine timing. So the next morning, I saw a post from a girl I was following about a self love coaching program and how she loves herself more and she ended a relationship that just wasn't serving her. And there was a energy to her that I was like, I want that. I want that for myself. So I had a consultation call with her coach. Shout out to Asia Hilario. We had a talk and I was like, yes, I need this. And then the first session was the very next day, November 20th, 2020, the day I chose myself. And that was the start of me truly looking at my life and what I needed to work on. So I was in my late 20s, I believe, when I decided to start working on myself. And sometimes I ask myself, why did it take me so long to choose myself? Why did I go through life, all of my life basically, without choosing myself? And a lot of people do this because choosing yourself requires you to look at yourself. You have to do introspection, and looking at yourself is freaking hard. That's why so many people avoid it. It actually makes me think of that TikTok, that sound. Is it me? Am I the drama? Yeah, you are. And a lot of people don't choose themselves because it requires taking accountability. You have to be honest with yourself and be like, yeah, I am the drama. I am the problem. It is me. It's also hard to start doing that introspection because a lot of times people are in victim mode. I was for show in victim mode. What happened to me? Yeah, that's not my fault. It's everyone else's fault, not mine. I also just didn't want to admit that I had problems I needed to work on because at that time, I was already really depressed. I was having really bad anxiety. I was in a really bad place. And for me to then admit I had stuff to work on, absolutely not. Like, no. And that's another reason why people don't want to start doing the work, right? And there was also a part of me that knew deep down inside what exactly I needed to work on, but I just didn't want to do it. Like, no, I'd rather not. And so that's why it took me so long to choose myself. But in my self love program, I slowly started to leave victim mode. And there was this one podcast my self love coach, Asia, had me listen to. It was Jay Shetty, and I think Jada Pinkett Smith was a guest. And it was How to Heal Your Past and Love Yourself Again. Asia assigned me this podcast. And a lot of great gems dropped in that podcast. But one thing that Jada said really, it hit me. I just hit my heart because that's what that's what this quote did. She said, "We stay stuck in certain patterns when we're not willing to look at ourselves." Let me just say that again. We stay stuck in certain patterns when we're not willing to look at ourselves. Basically, I was going to keep feeling unworthy. I was going to continue feeling not confident unless something changed. And at that moment, choosing myself looked like taking accountability. I had to finally say, yes, guys hurt me, but I allowed them to hurt me. They didn't reciprocate what I was giving, and I stayed. I taught them how to treat me. I had to admit that. I said that out loud and I was crying. I put in the work to change my life. It was a 3-month program. I went in, it's so crazy. I went in wanting to get over this guy and learning to love myself more. And I came out with that and much more. I freaking leveled up, y'all. I glowed up. I was a whole different person. And because I simply chose myself, I transformed. I developed a strong intuition and I trust it now. I don't seek the advice of others. I also do what feels good to me. For example, I always used to ask my friends if I should post stuff on social media, like, send 3 selfies to the group chat and be like which one I should post. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. If I think I look good in a selfie, I'm gonna post it. I also set boundaries in all aspects of my life. One example of this, because I mentioned earlier, my love life was one area I did not set boundaries in. So I was getting to know a guy and we were hitting it off really well. And it just came to that time where I was like, what is this? What are we doing? And so I asked him, and he said he wasn't looking for anything serious. And I was able to be honest with myself because I knew I wasn't trying to put in hella effort into someone when it wasn't going to be reciprocated. So I thanked him for his honesty and I went on my way. And I never would have done that before. But I put in a boundary there because I wasn't about to be like, oh, you don't want anything serious? Okay, well, I'm just going to continue talking to you and hopefully change your mind. No, I did not do that. I walked away. And I also walked away knowing that didn't make him a bad guy. He was honest. I knew what I wanted, he knew what he wanted, and we went our separate ways. And being clear with myself about where my mind was at in terms of a relationship, I actually ended up attracting my first freaking healthy relationship. Big purr. Shout out to Gabe Salazar. I love you. I actually want to do a podcast episode about how I attracted my first healthy relationship, but we'll get to that later. Choosing myself also helped me really become in tune with my feelings. I can actually understand my feelings and I can express them. For example, I was experiencing burnout really, really bad at work. First off, I was honest with myself about that and I gave myself compassion for it. And then I told my manager about it. Old Amanda would have never done that. We were able to talk it out. We worked together to find a solution to my burnout. And that never would have happened if I didn't express my feelings. Something I'm really proud of too is the fact that I can ask for help now and not feel ashamed or incapable. Because that was a big reason why I never wanted to ask for help at work, is because I didn't want my manager or someone to be like, this girl is asking for help. Like, why did we hire her? And now I know when I ask for help when it comes to work, it allows me to do my job better. It allows me to produce a better story for my viewers. You can see there, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's honestly the greatest gift you can give yourself and to others. So I want to end this episode with some reflection. Earlier, I gave some examples of how I wasn't choosing myself. If you resonated with any of that, yeah, then you need to do this reflection. Because this is honestly how you're going to start choosing yourself. First off, you need to admit that you need to do the inner work, period. It's hard to admit that kind of stuff. So give yourself compassion, take the time you need to finally acknowledge that. But that is the first step in choosing yourself. Once you do that, in your journal, write down why you haven't been doing the inner work. Truly ask yourself, what is stopping me from doing the inner work? For example, I was in victim mode, so I was just blaming everyone else. Lastly, write down what your life would look like if you weren't scared, if you finally started to do the inner work. And once you're done with that, I want you to read it, especially that last part about what your life can look like. And I want you to know you can have that life. And most importantly, you deserve to have that life. If you're still like, yeah, I still don't know where in my life I need to start choosing myself more, don't worry, I have more prompts to help you figure that out. So make sure you have that journal out still, and feel free to pause the episode and answer the prompts as I go, or just write all the prompts down. And when you have the time, go back and answer them. And these aren't prompts that are going to take you like 5 seconds to figure out. You really need to sit by yourself in a quiet area and really think about it. All right, so let's get started. First prompt. What personal needs are you sacrificing to meet the needs of others? What personal needs are you sacrificing to meet the needs of others? So, for example, Gabe and I are in a long distance relationship. He's in New Mexico, I'm in California. We were both really unsure about long distance, but we wanted to make it work. We love each other and we wanted this relationship to continue. So, we knew that communication and quality time were going to be really huge in our long distance relationship. So when he moved to New Mexico, we really put in an effort to spend time with each other on the phone or on FaceTime. Like we were talking a lot, way more than usual. But because I was putting a lot of time and effort into that, I wasn't putting a lot of time or effort into my environment, my living space. So my house was a freaking mess, basically. Like I wasn't doing chores, laundry was piling up, my fridge was empty because I wasn't going to the grocery store. And as I've gotten older, I've really realized that your environment, your living space, it does impact your mental health. But I didn't want to focus on all of that because I wanted to make sure I was spending time with Gabe because I know he values quality time and I really wanted to make this relationship work. So, the second prompt, what would it look like if I chose myself in these situations? So, if I chose myself in that situation, that would mean saying no to Gabe when he wanted to talk. As much as that would suck because I know he values quality time, it would actually allow me to do whatever I needed to do, get my stuff done, and I'd be more present in our conversations because at the time, it felt like I had 175 tabs open in my brain. There would be times he would be talking to me and I just wasn't paying attention. And of course, that would upset him, rightfully so. And then he would get upset. And then I was super irritable because, like I said, your environment does impact your mental health. I would just start popping off on him. But if I ended up saying, Gabe, I need 3 hours to clean my house, it would make a huge difference in our relationship and our conversations with each other. It would make the time that we spend with one another more meaningful. The third prompt, what do I have trouble saying no to and why is it so difficult? For me, it was difficult to say, hey, Gabe, I can't talk right now because I need to clean my house. Because I am a recovering people pleaser. I always put other people's happiness before my own. In the end, in that scenario specifically, we ended up solving it because Gabe actually initiated the conversation and I found out he was feeling the same way. He was not getting stuff done either. And so we realized that our relationship would not crumble, it would not end if we didn't spend a Saturday without talking to one another. So we agreed, hey, if one of us really needs to get stuff done, whether that be going grocery shopping, cleaning the house, doing laundry, that is okay. It's okay. 3 hours out of the day without talking to each other is not going to make long distance relationship fail. And because we were able to realize that, and because we were able to both choose ourselves, our conversations definitely got better. We're able to actually listen to each other and understand each other and just be more present when we're talking to one another. This last prompt is a really good one. I love it. So, is there anyone or anything I'm carrying resentment towards? And what is it mirroring to me that I'm not choosing for myself? I'll repeat it again. Is there anyone or anything I'm carrying resentment towards? And what is it mirroring to me that I'm not choosing for myself? Hopefully, these 4 prompts were helpful and helped you realize what parts of your life you need to start choosing yourself more. As I end this episode, I just want to remind you all, choose your happiness, choose your well being, choose your passion, choose yourself every damn day. Thank you so much for tuning in to Embrace Her Evolution. If you loved this episode, or maybe you have a few more questions, feel free to hit me up about it. I have my email in the episode description. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for my email list. This will keep you up to date on everything Embrace Her Evolution. Plus, it will give you access to some free worksheets. Right now, I'm offering a jealousy map worksheet. I talk about this in episode 3. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it now. It will help you use the feeling of jealousy as a map to your desires. I truly believe a way to embrace your evolution is by sitting by yourself and doing reflection, and these worksheets will help you get started. Once again, you can find a link to that in the episode description. You'll also find my Instagram there. I love, love, love connecting with people, so make sure you give me a follow. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your evolution.